Hello, welcome to the Dance Party 247 podcast. I'm the DJ Wongy, you have a DJ T, a DJ Envy, and we have a special guest of Half Jack today. And today we're going to be talking about Half Jack and what you are, who you are, and what you're about.
Oh, good.
So over to you.
Excellent. My name is Half Jaked. I'm a producer and DJ from Scotland, right in the middle of Scotland as well, so it means I can travel about. It's all very central, very easy. I've been involved in music and DJing since I was about 15 in the mid-90s, and it's always been a passion. And whether it goes away, whether I stop doing it or not, it's always in the back of your head. So you're always itching to play music. So that's what I do. I've got a few tracks released on various record labels, and since I've joined you guys, I've been DJing pretty much every night, and that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm all about.
Cool. Can you tell obviously whoever's listening what genres you play and what time you play on dance parties so they can hear you?
Yeah, no problem. I'm live every Monday from 6 to 8 on Dance Party 247. I usually play anything from sort of maybe the more tech house into the techno stuff. That's kind of what I grew up on. I like the harder beats. I like the tech house. I love house music as well, but I find it a bit slow to mix. I get too edgy. I want to mix now. I want harder beats. So I find the tech house is perfect. Before tech house was a genre, I used to try and mix house and techno. Now, it did blend sometimes, but you were very, very track specific. You couldn't just throw a set together. It took a lot of working out. But now we've got tech house. We've got people who obviously grew up listening to the same stuff I did, and now that's a genre. So it's readily available. There's songs out there, and you think to yourself, lovely wee little housey piano track, and then bang, hits you with the kick, and you go, oh, that sounds techno, and that's kind of what I love about it. So I'm in the age now where I can play music that I love and not have to make it.
I've had trouble trying to describe your style, your genre when I put some obviously mixes get recorded and go up onto to Mixcloud from your sets when you DJ with us, and you are riding that edge between obviously tech house and techno, and it's very unique, and obviously you make your own tunes in that genre as well. So you certainly stand out in terms of riding that line between the two genres. I can't tell. Depends what mood I'm in. I'll listen to it and go, is it techno? Is it house? Is it techno? I don't know.
The two types of music I love most when it comes to dance music, so it just seems natural to put the two together. It's like if somebody loves ice cream and they love they love chocolate sauce. You know what I mean? You put the two together, you're a happy man. So that's me.
There was an announcement earlier on today. Mr. Envy, tell us what that announcement was, and obviously Half Jake will listen in, and I'm sure you have an opinion on it of what we learned this afternoon, or the world learned this afternoon.
So basically, what I'm going to do, I will get up exactly what I sent you guys, just so I can be a bit, on the ball with it. Right, computer ain't working. Cool. Glastonbury, no, not Glastonbury. It was Glastonbury.
Glastonbury, yeah.
Has been cancelled again.
Seen that today, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I've got it here. It's just loading. And everything's going to be rolling over to next year. Now this is big. This is big for us and big for anyone who streams online, does live streaming. Basically, in a nutshell, what it means is there's going to be more people looking to log into live streams. There's going to be more people live streaming, and it gives us a really big opportunity to do something that me and T was talking about literally just before this call, which we've got to work out the sort of narratives on it and everything. But this is the first major festival this year to be cancelled.
Yes,
and I think this is going to set the standard in regards to
domino effect. Now I think
that's it. Yeah. So this is Glastonbury is probably the biggest music festival in the world.
Of course.
You mention it to anybody, everyone knows who it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty, it's the industry standard. And now they've been shut down due to obviously COVID. I think they'll all follow suit. I think they have to. On the plus side of this,
Just a quick question. Did you read about who made the decision to shut it down? Was it the people who own the festival, or was it...
It seems to be that way from the statement that came out.
I think from what I understand, it was I think it might have been a joint decision, not the government as such, but the local council where Glastonbury's held.
Yeah.
And the event organisers to say, well,
obviously the local people as well, because there's a massive influx of people every summer, you know, and
it's thousands, isn't it?
Any excuse, because obviously they hated the fact that all the rubbish, all the people in their gardens, you know what I mean? Because they'd wake up and it'd be like some guy sparkled in their garden, you know what I mean? And that's just a standard occurrence at any kind of festival town. So, you know, I think the problem is, I think the people, the organisers as well, think we're not going to be able to have Glastonbury as it always has been. Then there's not really any point in doing it. You know,
no.
The socially distanced festival thing is not for Glastonbury, and I think they've, you know, I think
you can't. In my opinion, you can't do a socially distant event. Full stop.
No,
I mean, bars and clubs have tried it in London, and a lot of them have now gone bankrupt due to it because the running costs. Just to have that running.
Just as much staff as partners.
Yeah. So, you know, I think Tomorrowland do a virtual festival.
Online one,
which I think they're going to continue doing.
Yeah.
But for me, that wouldn't work for Glastonbury. Because
Glastonbury was all the people coming together, and you know yourself, if you've ever been to Glastonbury, you would know that.
I haven't, but
I've been to festivals. Of any festival I've ever been to, Glastonbury especially, is very meeting random strangers, you know, and like making a friend.
It's very unique.
It's unbelievable, like every festival I've ever been to, you know, you go with a bunch of friends, but you end up with another bunch of friends, and that's part of the beauty of it, you know.
But that's what festivals are about, isn't it?
Absolutely, Otherwise, you would just do music on your own in your house. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, and so obviously due to this, it kind of gave me an idea that I see. About 2 weeks ago, I see this similar thing, you know, and we're trying to work out now how we can manipulate the situation, because that's what
of course
everyone's going to be doing the same. And what we're trying to do, I'll give you a little insight because I know this will go out live anyway. We are going to try and put together a virtual DJ package.
There's also a couple of companies that I don't know if you've heard what they called. Are they called Beach Streams? I think.
Right.
And what they do is they will organise an online festival for you, and basically you sell your own tickets for it, and they basically are just the organiser kind of thing.
But they take a percentage on it.
It's exactly like a club promoter used to do, you know, where they would say, right, you can play this night, but you've got to sell so many tickets, you know, or they've got you sell so many tickets, you decide the price, and then we take a cut. So they're doing the exact same thing, but they're doing it online. So I don't know. That's another.
Well. We don't want to go down that road of paying anyone to do anything.
Absolutely.
One thing we pride ourselves on as a twosome / threesome is everything is done by us. The only thing we outsource is the stream, because obviously we are
do that. Yeah, of course.
Did you know, Half Jake, that Envy is Scottish? He certainly is blood, because he's like he's like that with money, yeah.
And he's quick to
the I bloody got it. Because I'm poor, isn't it? I went to work last night.
That's just the sign of a working man. That's not a Scottish man. That's a working man. And you should know that as well.
I'm offended any stereotypical Scottish people. I do apologise. I've got some.
He doesn't. He means it. He means it.
Listen, we all share this little group of islands, and the one thing about it is we all take the piss out of each other everywhere. You guys in England are probably worse than Scottish people. Like Scottish people were like, oh, they're from such and such, you know. Ooh. But you guys really are like north and south have a crazy divide, you know.
Yes.
Such a huge thing, and it's crazy because Scottish people watching that are like, why can't you get on with each other? You live in the same country. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
I don't know. I work with all sorts of people. Work different nationalities, different parts of the country, and everything. And we just all literally do take the pee out of each other.
That's
how it is.
That's the way it should be. You know, work banter. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't want to get up and go to work. You know what I mean?
No.
Well, I don't want to go anyway. But that ain't the point. But you know, like last night, I had to go to work right? I had to go to work and I had to stand with the tools for a whole 5 minutes before they said I could go home. I was fuming. I had to work a whole 5 minutes to get my money last night. I was not
Terrible, isn't it? It's terrible.
Horrible.
Disgusting.
You know what I mean?
Unbelievable.
Horrible.
I was fuming, mate.
I went and got a job in a supermarket during the first lockdown because I didn't want to be sitting on my arse doing nothing.
Nothing's changed.
Yep.
Now we're into the fourth lockdown. Nothing has changed, is it?
All
And
we're doing is just extending things. And
yeah, and the only thing that has changed is DJs. We don't have a life anymore.
absolutely. There's
We don't.
been no
We-
package from the government whatsoever to help the creative industries at all.
Well,
you know?
who was it? Was it Mr. Sunak or whatever his name is? That
Keith
idiot in
Sunak,
Parliament. Yeah, didn't he tell people to go and retrain? If you're a DJ,
Yes.
Yeah,
or
the poster,
Don't
the
retrain.
offensive poster, it was very offensive. It had a ballerina called Fatima, and it said Fatima, you know, should retrain in cyber, and that was the thing. And then I remember all the memes afterwards saying Fatima has trained for 20 years. You know, why should she go and retrain? You know what I mean? Why shouldn't the government retrain to do jobs?
Well,
you know?
talking about that, RJ, you were a chef for 20 odd years, weren't you?
20 years. Yep.
Yep.
20 years.
and then obviously due to COVID, you lost your job, or
Lost my job in March, in the first lockdown, end of March. I was the sous chef in an Italian restaurant in Stirling, which is, I'm sure everybody's heard of Stirling Castle, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a beautiful little town, university there, massive influx of students every year. You know, the people change every year, people from all over the world, and just died. The town just died, absolutely died in March. And unfortunately, I only worked in a small family-run Italian restaurant, so they couldn't afford to do anything. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was made redundant. Furlough was pointless because they weren't even sure they were going to be opening back up again or anything. Do you know what I mean? And that was that. So I thought, brilliant. So I sat at home for a month. I managed a month. So I got back into my production. Now, I used to do put little beats together and stuff on the train going to work with my laptop. And I've always done that. Like, that's been a little hobby. I've always done it. And then I suddenly had all this time. You know, I used to coach kids football, my son's football. I was at all these games. My daughter plays football. So I was a very busy guy, out of chefing as well. And then all of a sudden I had all this time and couldn't go anywhere. Couldn't do any of the things I was qualified to do, which is...
That must have drove you nuts.
It did. It really did. If it wasn't for music, I don't know what I would have done, because I've got two qualifications. I'm a qualified sound engineer and I'm a qualified chef. Both trades were obliterated. You know what I mean? It's like absolutely the only two jobs in Britain that you can't do right now was the two things I was qualified to do. So I slowly started building things up in the house. I started taking up more and more space in the bedroom. My missus is going crazy about it, but she also understands that, you know, I used to work 12 hours a day, and going from that to nothing, it was going to make me mad.
Yeah.
I tell you what, me and Wongy will do you a deal. Me and Wongy built my studio.
Yep.
We'll come to Scotland and we'll build you one, and you pay our wages for the week.
Sounds
There we
perfect.
go.
I'll even put you
How
up.
about that, Wongy?
Cool.
That ain't too sad, is it?
No.
They are dirt cheap.
In the garden to do it as well.
A few beers and a meal, I'll do them.
That's
That's all we need, isn't it? Well, I say a few beers. I go through about 40 beers on a weekend.
Get a
So-
shop, or you'd be up in Scotland, you'd be like, what's half the price of London? What are you talking about?
A case of 40 beers is just a few beers, remember?
Yeah. Don't be telling Envy that, because you won't get no work done.
Up in Scotland, they fill your pint glass right up as well. When I was in London, it was like that much head. You know?
Yeah, you do. It is bad. It is bad.
I'm
London.
some Australian guy, and I'm like, you're not even from the UK, that's a pint.
I'll come back to a serious note. You've got obviously a qualified sound engineer. Is that something that once the industry starts opening up again, is that something you would like now? Obviously, you've had to have a career change. Are you going to put that to some use?
You know, I never really wanted to do it as a job, because I'll tell you why I've done it. I wanted to do it because I've always done it as a hobby. I've always played in bands. I've always DJ'd. I play guitar. I play bass. I play a wee bit of drums, and that's it. And I've always wanted to be able to just record my own stuff in the house, but make it sound more professional.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I knew quite a lot, and then I went to college and I learned a lot more. Simple as. And then it just basically progressed from there. it's turned into like a full-on home production system. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's what happened. And
I mean, I think
hooked ever since. Eh?
I think when you into anything like this, I mean, I never really realised it until this lockdown that you really do need your own space. Now, that being a studio or a room, whatever the case is, especially if you have a family as well, you've got kids and stuff. I mean, I used to get moaned at. I took up, you see how much of the front room I took up, didn't you? And it was like, and one year as well, like he'd come round and they'd just, I'd have vinyls everywhere.
The funny story is that he's got a studio because of a Christmas tree. That is the first thing.
Well, I was getting there, but you've kind of stole me thunder now. So go on, Mr. T, carry on.
Well, you
know what I mean? Yeah, so basically, I was taking up about a quarter of the front room. I've got a big front room, but I was taking up about a quarter of it. And I had wires running up the walls and up the door frames, all tacked up for cameras and all sorts of stuff. And then Christmas was approaching, and I was getting the evil eye, wasn't I, from the wife, because she wanted her Christmas tree up. She wanted a new table. She wanted this. And
you wanted the prime real estate.
And what I wanted was actually another 2 set of decks attached onto the ones I already had. But so the deal was, you can build your studio, but you got to take. I've got snakes as well. You got to take snakes out.
Yes.
Everything has to go. And
sweet deal.
To be fair, it was the best thing. It was the best thing I'd done last year, wasn't it, Wongy? It was a lot of graft. It took us 4 weeks to get it all up because we was only doing a few hours a day.
Yeah.
We
wasn't doing every day.
Yeah. As well as DJing as well. Do you know what I mean?
I was squeezing that in between. Wongy actually missed out on about 3 sets because I kept him here too long.
Yeah, I covered one of them. I remember covering one.
Yeah.
But now I'm in here, I think, why would I want to go back into the house?
Yeah.
I've got a big fridge. It's a mess because we've been moving stuff around again yesterday.
Yes.
I haven't got that far yet because there's a bit more of a story behind this as well. So I've got a 10 by 8 at the moment. So it's about the size of if you was to rent a single room.
That's a small box. Yeah.
So I'm not really happy with it in the size. So I'm putting another 8 foot wide by 12 foot long on the back of it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have like about 22 foot long.
One thing I learned at college as well is if you're ever building a studio, you've got to account for your physical length of your sound waves. So
technical lesson from Mr. Halfjay. Go on then, son.
So things like bass, you'll have heard the terms bass traps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bass traps are built into walls, so what they do is they soak up the extra wave that's there, and it means it doesn't reflect and come back and affect your recording in any way. So things like that, like shiny surfaces, all those kind of things, you can get standing reflections from. So yeah, size absolutely matters when it comes to building a studio. Unless you've got tiny wee speakers, it's not a problem. But if you're running proper,
I've got two 12-inch full range speakers.
Some bass.
Plus, I've got two 8-inch full range speakers as well.
Yeah.
So I've got 500. I've probably got about 650 watts RMS.
Right.
In a 10 by 8. I mean, you can't have it up too loud, can you, Wongy? Because your eardrums are.
Well, you don't even go halfway, and it's loud.
It's about a quarter, if that.
But what you'll find is what's the reason that's happening. You're feeling that double pressure, and it feels like tapping on your ears. Well, that's the standing reflections. That's the actual physical sound waves bombarding your ear. You know, so that's what bass traps are there for. And
so what I was looking at doing while we were on the subject of being technical, this is probably the most untechnical term you're ever going to hear. I was going to put carpet tiles on the walls, stick them up to soak up some of that sound, and then I've heard in the corners is where bass likes to sit.
Yeah.
And then just put in you can get the columns
kind of the corners. That corner.
Yeah, that's it. And then that will help with the bass bouncing around like a loony.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm sort of looking at. But when we worked out how much it cost to do just to put the carpet tiles up, it was horrendous, wasn't it? They're like £2 each, and it cost me like £600.
Well, we're looking at about 120 square feet, like area, wasn't it?
You can get one a week if you're right. Just do it week by week. 1, 2, 3.
By the time he's done, he'll be moving out to the next bit.
Well, it's literally work in progress. I mean, you can buy a packet, can't you? Seriously, you can buy a packet and then just put a packet up. And
I just ripped a couple of these off the wall.
yeah.
I've got loads of them. They were like 25 quid for like sort of like 50 squares, and I got.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at getting.
And they're absolutely fine for a small studio. Do you know what I mean? They will dampen the sound. They will stop reflections, and they won't soundproof a room, but that's not what they're for. You know.
No, but to be fair,
you know,
if you're talking soundproof, you're going to.
Oh, you're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I mean, my neighbours are great. I'm very, very lucky where I live. I can bang out all my speakers at full capacity all day long, and no one would knock on my door and go, "You're taking the mic."
See, that's like me. I'm lucky that way as well.
I'm very lucky. You go to Wongy's residence, and if he has it up above like
quarter volume,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Not even full. Not even quarter. And it travels because he lives in a flat. It just travels all the way through.
It's the way flats are built as well. They're not built with soundproof in them, especially if they're built at any time before 1980. You know.
Yeah, no, well, them ones were built just after the war.
So.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, like I was saying, if you're going to do music production, you're going to DJ. Really, you need your own space. T's got the best one. He's under the stairs, isn't he, mate?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's it.
That's where the family work.
Elbows. That's it.
Now you know what's going to die.
My wife tried to screen under the stairs, and I was like, and then I explained to her about sound, and she went, "Oh, okay, that was my get-out clause."
I mean, I've got the studio in the back garden. It's all secure. It's all done fine.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's something you could look at.
It definitely is something I'm looking at. But again, I'm not going to do it until I can get the size, and I'm going to have space to move around.
To be fair, this 8x10 is big enough for me because I don't do music production.
It's not
so
like
I ain't got a computer screen sitting behind me or nothing like that.
He wants like a dance floor, a bar area, and then the DJ booth. That's what he's looking for.
That's a mini club.
Well, when I extend it, because I'm going to extend it in the summer, I'm going to do it slightly different this time, aren't we? Because we're going to, how we've got it now, the roof is going to go up on the current one. It's going to go up about a foot. So that gives me about 10 foot.
That'll give you a lot more space as well. Yeah, definitely.
And it will sound better with the sound.
It will. It'll give you more space acoustically.
Yeah. And then what I'm going to do, basically, so I'm going to seal off this door. So behind the camera, there's the door where I walk in. Up there's going to be, obviously I've got the wall. So instead of having the whole wall taken out, I'm going to have like, one of them doors where they're bifolds.
Yep.
I can close the doors when need be, if I'm doing a show, or if I'm doing a live show, and I've got people round when we're allowed, you can see the crowd in the background and everything.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at doing.
I'm going to get a wee green screen at the end of the month.
You're going to?
Definitely, yeah, because the way I've got it set up from Monday there.
It was a lot better this week when we watched it. Massively better.
Yeah, no,
it definitely is. It looks like I've got more room. It looks just a million times more professional.
The thing is, you can tell straight away you're not just a DJ just because you got your setup thing. How many screens does a DJ need? Oh, you're a producer. Fair enough.
Yeah. Keyboard in the background, you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Tell you what,
I mean,
this is a little bit of kit. This is an absolute brilliant little bit of kit. The Akai Flyer.
Is that like a sound module type thing?
I'll put it up again.
Like
yeah, it's kind of like a launch pad.
Right.
Right.
It's specifically made for FL Studio, so it's got every function you can use on FL Studio. So it turns into a keyboard, it's a beat pad, it's a transport. Do you know what I mean? So you can use it.
Is that your door of choice? Is it?
It kind of is for electronic music, yeah.
Same here.
Definitely for electronic music. It just seems to have. It seems geared more towards electronic music and the way.
I think although I've used Ableton, the workflow just seems to be a little bit better on Fruity Loops and mine.
Definitely. I think Ableton, unless you're very, very confident at using DAWs, it can be overwhelming for people who have never really started using one before. If I'm recording any kind of live instruments and things like that, I'll use Pro Tools. But that's because that's what we used in college and that's what we used in the studio.
Right.
And that's what you used to, isn't it? Yeah, so I think so the programs that I sort of grew up using as a DJ for doing my own editing with mixes and bits and pieces, are the programs you tend to stick with.
Yeah.
As you get older. So
Because what, you know?
Yeah, so you used it all the way through college. Why change it when you know how to use that bit of kit perfectly?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For recording live instruments and things like that, microphones, all that kind of stuff, I definitely always use it. Pro Tools is my go-to. It does everything perfectly. I know the workflow. I understand the software. But if you learn on Pro Tools or if you learn on something else and then you try and use Pro Tools or try and use something else, it can be very confusing because Pro Tools has this little knack of naming every single thing its own name, like Pro Tools version of, you know. So in FL Studio, for example, when you're finished making a song, you'll hit render as. Now that makes sense. You're rendering that track to or as whatever you want it to be, whether it be WAV, MP3, whatever. Pro Tools says bounce. You're like, what the hell? Bounce. You know, bounce track. You know.
But that's like that bit of software I downloaded this morning. I downloaded OpenShot Video Editor first. And then I thought, I'll give T a ring because he does all the editing for the podcast and that.
Yep.
And then he said to me to download, what was it called?
Filmora.
Filmora. And then the wording in Filmora for the same thing in open source were completely different. Completely different.
I always say to Envy that because the length of the podcast and what I do to it, it takes a while for it to render. So I do it overnight. But that's the official term, render. That's what you're doing when you do a track, when you're doing a video, you're rendering it. Envy last night was, where's the render button? It says export.
Right, yeah, that's like exactly the same, you know.
Yeah, but if you don't know, you don't know, do you?
Exactly.
That's
the experience, and that like eventually over years of using different pieces of software or recording equipment, you will get to know. You know what I mean? It's exactly what Wongy was saying earlier in the group chat to George when I said it was distorting slightly. He says it's your trims. Now, your trims are great, but your trims are only your gain for each channel. You know, and again, it's called gain on one mixer and trim on another.
Yeah.
You know,
if you look at
the same thing.
If you look at mixers, if you get yours is
it's just the one at the top that turns the volume up and down, yeah.
But if you look at the lower end mixers, like 80, 90, £50, £100 mixers, they will say gain. When you step into professional mixers, it says trim.
Yeah.
Which is exactly the same thing, but it's
on a guitar amplifier, it will say gain. Absolutely, on every single guitar amplifier it says gain. And if you turn that, that's how you get distortion. They're designed to give you distortion on a guitar. Whereas in a recording studio, if you take an SSL, which is a solid state Logic desk or a Neve desk or anything like that, in a recording studio, it'll always say trim at the top as well. Right next to your balance, right next to, do you know what I mean? And that's exactly the same. But it was exactly the same thing. People get overwhelmed when they see so many buttons and knobs. But if you strip it down, it's exactly the same as a mixer for a DJ. You've got your channels and they're in strips. So you've got your at the top, your trim, whatever you want to call it, and then it'll go into your, usually pan if it's a normal mixer for bands, and then it'll go down through your high, middle, low. Do you know what I mean? And then sometimes your pan's underneath that, just depends. Or it's a filter on a mixer. But it's crazy.
You just start times 20. It just looks
if you look at them all, it can be confusing, but if you just strip it down to one channel at a time, it's so much simpler. You know?
It's like when I first got my Prime, and I was looking at all these buttons, you know, and I think, right, forget that. Concentrate. Look at one channel, that one strip, and just concentrate on that, and because the rest is just mirrored.
Yeah, exactly. The rest are just other versions of that, more of the same. You know.
Yes.
So what happened?
It goes for the same on your platters at the side as well. All the buttons that match each other on the other side. You know,
was that why you broke your faders, because you're looking at your buttons? Whoa!
Oh, you didn't put a fader on it, did you?
Oh, not one, but two. He broke two channel faders. Wait. And we had Sam on a podcast a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Sam, we were talking about this, and Sam watched the review, and apparently the guy who reviewed it said the Prime is unbreakable.
What?
Not until
Right,
Wongy
no.
got his hands on it.
Listen, right. I haven't broke the Prime. Right, it's only the metal bit that's on the fader that goes from the fader bit,
Yes, it's
to the.
Into the plastic, usually.
No, but
It's
it's the
broken.
metal stem. It's the metal stem that goes
but
into. That's all it's
That'll be
broken.
replaceable.
If it's
I
broken,
know
then
my
It's-
Dano is
Go on, Wongy, you're itching to say it because why did you break it?
Well, they got a bit twisted, so when I twisted them back, they snapped.
Yeah, and what do they do?
because to get a bit twisted.
That's irrelevant.
See, I tend not to do fader mixes too much because I've done that in the past.
Yeah.
Well,
See, I'm not the only one then.
Hang on. What happened to the DJM 600 I sold you? What happened to the fader in that?
I've done that to one of the channels, yeah. One of the stems.
Previous.
No, do you see, Half Jake, do you see a pattern emerging here with
I
Mr.
do.
Wongy?
However, that is when that's why I try not to drink when I'm playing, yeah.
That's a big thing as well because you can be a bit heavy-handed. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But then when you pay that kind of money for equipment, you expect to be able to abuse it a little bit.
Oh yes.
You should.
but
He should be as unbreakable than as Wongy. He's above unbreakable.
That's a whole new test.
it's been Wongy-nized.
Your YouTube channel, it's that Wongy tests gear. Nobody would send you stuff because if you're claiming it was unbreakable, but I don't send it to Wongy, you'll break it.
In fairness, if I tested it, at least and I did break it, at least they know it's unbreakable.
Exactly.
I'm sure you
We
get.
know it's not Wongy proof. That's it.
Okay, everyone, thank you for locking to the Dance Party 247 podcast. You've had myself, DJ Envy, DJ T, DJ Wongy, and we've had a special guest today, Half Jake. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the notification bell to get the latest updates when we release a new podcast. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks.